Welcome back, Kotter, the iconic 1970s high school sitcom featuring stars like Gabe Kaplan, John Travolta, Debralee Scott, and Robert Hegyes, once had audiences laughing out loud. But few could have imagined the tragedy behind the scenes. Young deaths in loneliness, rape and obscurity, broken marriages, and careers that collapsed without warning. What truly lies behind each actor who once brought us joy and laughter? Join us as we uncover the truth and pay tribute to the legacies they left behind. Let's go. Ron Palillo as Arnold Horshack. Ronald Gabriel Palillo was born on April 2, 1949, in New Haven, Connecticut. When he joined Welcome Back, Kotter, in 1975, he was 26 years old, portraying Arnold Horshack, a clumsy but kind-hearted student with the iconic laugh and catchphrase, "Ooh, ooh, Mr. Kotter." His mix of innocence and sincerity made the character beloved by audiences for generations. But behind the comedic character was a soul wounded from an early age. When he was just 10 years old, Palillo lost his father to lung cancer. That traumatic event left a permanent crack in the heart of a growing boy, and perhaps also drove him toward the stage, a place where he could escape by becoming anyone but himself. When the role of Horshack catapulted him to TV stardom, fame came swiftly, but Palillo soon realized it was a double-edged sword. In one interview, he confessed that the very success he achieved destroyed his career, as he was forever typecast as the goofy high school student, unable to grow beyond that on screen. Still, he never gave up. Palillo continued acting, sometimes in small television roles like in Ellen, or in stage performances such as Mozart in Amadeus. He even dabbled in horror films like Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, 1986, and explored playwriting, directing, and teaching. From Broadway to small theaters in Florida, he quietly pursued his craft, not for fame, but because the stage still had a place for him. In his personal life, Palillo chose to live discreetly. He shared his life with his partner Joseph Graham for 41 years, a quiet but enduring love in the chaotic world of show business, something not everyone had the courage to maintain or make public during that time. Then, one August morning in 2012, he suddenly collapsed at home from a heart attack. Though rushed to the hospital, Palillo could not be saved. He passed away quietly at the age of 63, taking with him the childhood memories of millions of Americans. Strangely, he died just 7 months after his close co-star Robert Hegyes, who played Juan Epstein, also passed away from the same cause. At the time of his death, Palillo's net worth was estimated at around $12 million. Not considered large by Hollywood standards, but it was the fruit of a life devoted to the arts. John Travolta as Vinnie Barbarino. John Joseph Travolta was born on February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey. When he joined Welcome Back, Kotter, 1975 to 1979, he was 21 years old, portraying Vinnie Barbarino, a handsome student and the charismatic leader of the Sweat Hogs, known for his stylish looks, cocky attitude, and undeniable charm. The role not only brought laughter to audiences, but also opened the door for John to rise among the brightest young stars in America at the time. But behind the early spotlight, John Travolta's life gradually took on tragic tones unknown to many fans. In 1977, while he was riding the massive success of Saturday Night Fever, the film that earned him his first Oscar nomination, tragedy struck. His older girlfriend, actress Diana Hyland, whom John deeply loved, died from breast cancer. They had only a brief time together before fate tore them apart. That loss left a profound and lasting wound in John's heart, just as his fame reached its peak. In the years that followed, although John continued to shine in Grease, 1978, and many other box office hits, his personal life faced relentless trials. His marriage to actress Kelly Preston, whom he married in 1991 after years of seeking happiness, seemed blissful as they welcomed 3 beautiful children. But in 2009, Tragedy struck again when their eldest son Jet suddenly died at age 16 due to a seizure while on vacation in the Bahamas. That grief shattered John, and he later shared that it was the darkest moment of his life. Not long after he tried to recover from the loss of his son, John had to witness Kelly, the woman who had been by his side for nearly 3 decades, quietly battle cancer. Despite overcoming many hardships together, even undergoing marriage therapy to keep their family strong, Kelly eventually passed away in 2020 after 2 years of fighting. John lost the greatest emotional support of his life, while also continuing to face rumors and criticism surrounding his long-standing connection with the Church of Scientology, which he had been involved with since youth. Today, at 71 years old, John Travolta remains in the hearts of the public as a symbol of both talent and silent pain. He lives a more private life now, devoting time to his remaining family, continuing charity work, and occasionally appearing in film projects like The Fanatic, 2019. Debralee Scott as Rosalie Hotsy Totsy. Debralee Scott was born on April 2, 1953, in Elizabeth, New Jersey. When she was just 22 years old, she appeared in the hit sitcom Welcome Back, Kotter, 1975 to 1979, as Rosalie Hotsy Totsy, a confident, sharp, and charming female student with a mischievous flair. Although she only appeared during the show's first 2 seasons, her character left a lasting impression, bringing a refreshing presence to a school hallway otherwise filled with unruly boys. Following that early success, Debralee quickly became a familiar face on American television throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Her role as Kathy Shumway, the witty younger sister of Mary and Mary Hartman, brought her even closer to a wider audience. However, while the spotlight illuminated her artistic life, behind the scenes her personal journey was marked by quiet pain. Her first marriage ended shortly after it began, and Debralee rarely spoke of her ex-husband in the years that followed. She once said that her performance in Police Academy, 1984, where she played a quirky, humorous character, was her way of hiding what was truly rotting inside. Indeed, behind the fame, Debralee entered a dark period filled with emotional instability. The deepest wound likely came in 2001, when her fiancé, Port Authority police officer John Dennis Levi, was killed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks. They were in the middle of planning their wedding when he died, leaving her lost in a hollow New York City and a grief she could never escape. From that point on, Debralee was never the same. Family members revealed that she began drinking heavily, with long periods of intoxication becoming her only refuge from waking up in a world without the man she loved. When she moved to Florida to live with her sister in early 2005, many believed it was the start of a new chapter. But just days after being hospitalized for a coma and released on her 52nd birthday, Debralee Scott passed away in her sleep on April 5, 2005. The mother of her late fiancé revealed that Debralee died of cirrhosis brought on by alcoholism, a direct result of years of emotional paralysis and loneliness. Her sister quietly admitted she never got over Dennis's death. At the time of her passing, Debralee's net worth was estimated to be under $1 million, a modest amount for someone who had once lit up so many beloved television programs. Gabe Kaplan as Gabe KOTTER. Gabriel Weston Kaplan was born on March 31, 1945 in Brooklyn, New York. When he took on the role of teacher Gabe KOTTER in Welcome Back, KOTTER in 1975, he had just turned 30 years old. His character was a former troublemaker student at Buchanan High School who returned to teach a class full of students just like he once was, the Sweat Hogs. With sharp humor and a unique teaching style, Gabe KOTTER was not only the soul of the classroom, but also the heart of the entire series, bringing warmth, humanity, and clever laughter to millions of television viewers every week. However, behind the model teacher character was an artist with a strong personality who faced significant behind-the-scenes tension. As Welcome Back, Kotter grew more successful and became a cultural phenomenon. Kaplan began to clash with producers over the show's creative direction, especially as the script increasingly focused on the students rather than Kotter himself. These disagreements gradually led him to reduce his role in later seasons, and although there was no public conflict, his absence from the screen left a noticeable gap in the hearts of the audience. That was a period when Kaplan, as he shared years later, went through a mild form of depression, a feeling of fatigue and imbalance after losing his place in the very creative child he had helped bring to life. Stepping away from the screen, Kaplan found an unexpected new path: poker. What began as a side passion became a form of escape, and eventually his second career. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Kaplan not only competed, but also won several professional poker tournaments, facing off against top players and earning millions in prize money. At one point, he was even dubbed the poker teacher on TV, regularly appearing as a commentator in major events like the World Series of Poker and high-stakes poker. Still, his love for poker was sometimes misunderstood. Some accused him of being too obsessed, even addicted to gambling. But Kaplan always denied this, insisting it was merely a game of intellect and a way to rediscover the sharpness that once made him a success on the comedy stage. As of 2025, at the age of 80, Gabe Kaplan lives peacefully and contentedly. With an estimated net worth of around $30 million, he no longer needs a stage to be recognized. What he has left behind is not just the role of teacher Gabe Kotter, which remains etched in the memory of an entire generation, but also the proof of a strange yet resilient journey of one remarkable man. Robert Hegyes as Juan Epstein. Robert Bruce Hegyes was born on May 7, 1951, in New Jersey. When he took on the role of Juan Epstein in Welcome Back, Kotter, in 1975, he was only 24 years old, the youngest among the main cast. The character Epstein, a student of both Puerto Rican and Jewish descent, stood out for his rebellious attitude, his mouth that worked faster than his brain, and his hilariously fake excuse notes written by my mother. But behind that tough exterior was a loyal, sensitive heart, always ready to stand up for friends, a reflection of Robert's real-life character. Unlike his brash on-screen persona, in real life Robert was gentle, artistic, and eager to learn. He had been a member of a puppet theater troupe, a street performer, and a student teacher before entering acting as a serious journey. Success with Kotter came too fast and overwhelmed him. Though he was beloved by fans, he deeply felt the weight of being trapped under Epstein's shadow, a kind of sweet prison that made every effort afterward feel compared and confined. After the series ended, Robert moved on to play Detective Manny Esposito in Cagney and Lacey, and took on numerous minor roles in television. But the spotlight was never quite the same. He gradually stepped back from acting and turned to teaching at Rowan University, the same school he had once attended, where he became a guest professor, sharing his acting experience with younger generations. With his curly hair, witty smile, and warm heart, Robert always made students feel they were learning from a mentor, not a faded star. However, time spares no one. In his later years, Robert began facing serious health issues, particularly with his heart. Though he tried to slow down and return to his hometown of Metuchen, New Jersey for a bit of peace, his body could no longer fight back. On a winter morning in 2012, after suffering a severe chest pain, he was rushed to John F. Kennedy Hospital. Not long after, the sad news was confirmed. Robert Hegyes had passed away from a heart attack at the age of 60. His net worth at the time was estimated at about $3 million. Not a huge figure by Hollywood standards, but it spoke to a life lived through genuine talent, hard-earned work in the arts, and the enduring respect of his audience. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs as Freddie Boom Boom Washington. Lawrence Hilton Jacobs was born on September 4, 1953 in New York City, the fifth of 9 children in a working-class family. When he was only 22 years old, he stepped into the spotlight with the role of Freddie Boom Boom Washington in the series Welcome Back, KOTTER, 1975 to 1979, an iconic character that made him a familiar face to American audiences. With his calm demeanor, smooth-talking style, and seductive saxophone skills, Freddie became the cool head of the rebellious student group. And for Hilton Jacobs, it was the gateway to a film career. However, early success could not shield him from the bitter challenges that lay behind the scenes. After KOTTER ended, Hilton Jacobs entered the 1980s with both opportunity and disillusionment. He had standout roles in Cooley High and Roots, and later made a strong impression as Joseph Jackson in The Jacksons, An American Dream, 1992. But Hollywood gradually turned its back on him as he refused to accept stereotypical roles for black actors. In multiple interviews, he reflected on the difficult period when acting roles became scarce, and financial pressure forced him to take small, quiet jobs just to make ends meet. During those years of being overlooked, he returned to his first passion, music, which had brought him joy in his youth. He collaborated with Rick James on the album Street Songs, 1981, and rediscovered his artistic inspiration on the theater stage. When Hollywood failed to tell the stories he believed were worth telling, he began producing independent projects, writing his own journey. Though that path was not paved with roses, it allowed him to preserve his identity in an unforgiving industry. Outside the stage, Hilton Jacobs has always led a private life. He is the father of 2 daughters, and once shared that he had to carry the weight of being both an artist and a father in an unpredictable world. Though there were times when he seemed to have faded from memory, he continued to appear in smaller projects like Alien Nation or Rob Zombie's horror film 31, quietly but resiliently, just like the man himself. As of 2025, Lawrence Hilton Jacobs is 71 years old. He still attends reunions, anniversary events, and remains beloved by audiences across generations. His estimated net worth is between $3 to $5 million. Not a large sum, but a testament to a lifetime of quiet, persistent dedication to the arts. Marcia Strassman as Julie KOTTER. Marcia Ann Strassman was born on April 28, 1948, in New York City, and she was only 27 years old when she portrayed Julie KOTTER, the gentle, sharp-witted wife of teacher Gabe KOTTER in the series Welcome Back, KOTTER, 1975 to 1979. On screen, Julie was the warm anchor amidst the chaos of high school life, but behind that kind smile was an actress who carried quiet sorrows and constantly fought to maintain her place and dignity in a ruthless industry. Before turning to television, Marcia had been a singer with the 1967 hit The Flower Children, a popular song on the West Coast, though it never broke out nationally. As her music career faded, she returned to her first love, acting, and began to gain attention through supporting roles in MASH and various 1970s television shows. However, it was the role of Julie KOTTER that made her a household name. Still, her time on KOTTER was far from the happy experience people imagined. She later revealed that she felt miserable, believing that Gabe Kaplan, the male lead and her co-star, wanted her removed from the cast. The truth later emerged. It had been a manipulation by producer James Comack, who deliberately stirred conflict between the actors to maintain control over them. After KOTTER ended, Marcia continued working diligently in numerous television series and films, though her career never exploded as many had hoped. She left a lasting impression as the devoted wife of Rick Moranis in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, 1989, and its 1992 sequel. However, that spotlight could not erase years of solitude. Her marriage to director Robert Collector, 1984 to 1989, ended quietly, and she chose a private life with her only daughter, Elizabeth. In later years, she stepped out of the limelight, taking on a few guest roles in shows like Murder, She Wrote, and Tremors, but mostly lived away from the Hollywood buzz. The greatest tragedy of her life came in 2007 when she was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer that had already spread to her bones. Even knowing she was on the edge of life and death, Marcia remained strong in spirit. In 2008, she published her memoir, sharing her battle with illness and the quiet pains of life in show business. She passed away on October 24, 2014, at her home in Sherman Oaks, California, at the age of 66. The cause was complications from breast cancer. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at around $2 million, a modest figure that accurately reflected a career built on quiet diligence, not showy fame, but full of sincerity. Vernee Watson as Verna Jean Williams. Vernee Christelle Watson was born on September 28, 1949, in New York City. When she took on the role of Verna Jean Williams, one of the rare female characters among the sweat hogs in Welcome Back, KOTTER, she was just 26 years old. Though the role was not large, it brought a sense of charm, intelligence, and strength that made her unforgettable to viewers and opened the door to a career that would span decades. Behind the spotlight, Vernee's life wasn't always as bright as the roles she portrayed. Her first marriage ended after just 1 year, leaving deep emotional scars at a time when her career was still in its infancy and her name had yet to gain broad recognition. Things became even more complicated when she entered her second marriage with photographer Van Johnson. Although the couple had 2 children together, the relationship ended in 1991 after more than a decade filled with tension, during which she often had to care for her children alone while juggling unstable work and financial pressure. The 1990s marked a turning point in her life when she was cast as Vi Smith, the mother of Will Smith's character in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Though a supporting role, the portrayal of a strong, devoted single mother reflected parts of Vernee's real life. Few people knew that during those years, she had to survive on commercial gigs and accept any available acting jobs just to keep a roof over her children's heads. Caught between career and motherhood, she reportedly experienced mild depression, something she never publicly admitted, but that close friends would later confirm. In 2005, she unexpectedly appeared in public as a witness in the Michael Jackson trial. The event thrust her name into sensational headlines, even though she was not directly involved in the case's central issues. At the time, she had just returned to acting with minor roles in ER and Desperate Housewives. But each time she arrived at a film set, she would cover her face for fear of being misidentified as someone tied to the scandal. Even so, Vernee Watson never gave up. In 2017, at age 68, she made a remarkable comeback as Nurse Stella Henry in General Hospital, a role that earned her 2 consecutive Emmy Awards. While many of her peers had retired from the screen, Vernee remained in front of the camera, continuing to inspire younger generations. As of 2025, Vernee Watson is 75 years old and still acting in television. She lives far from Hollywood's noise, with an estimated net worth of around $5 million. John Sylvester White as Michael Woodman. John Sylvester White, Jr. was born on October 31, 1919 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but spent most of his childhood in the small town of Colmar Manor, Maryland, where his father served as the town's first mayor. When he joined the cast of Welcome Back, KOTTER in 1975, John was 56 years old. He played Vice Principal Michael Woodman, a character who, at first glance, seemed nothing more than a stern and rule-bound authority figure. But beneath that frown lay a gentleness and longing that gradually earned viewers' empathy. This role became the defining point of John's late-blooming career, ensuring his name remained forever etched in television history. Behind Mr. Woodman's stern face, however, was a man who had endured quiet sorrow. His marriage to Joan Alexander, the famed voice of Lois Lane in the Superman radio series, began like a dream amid New York's 1940s entertainment scene. Yet, despite surviving the difficult early years of their careers together, they couldn't sustain the relationship offstage. Their divorce was quiet and unpublicized, but it left a lingering emptiness in John's life, one he never filled with another relationship. In the years after Kotter, John continued to take on small television roles, such as Mr. Vogelman in Mama's Family, but none of them allowed him to escape the long shadow of Mr. Woodman. His career neither soared nor vanished. Instead, he chose a quieter path. He distanced himself from Hollywood's frenzy and, in the early 1980s, moved to Waikiki, Hawaii, where the blue sea and golden sunshine offered a gentle retreat from the pursuit of fame. While fans continued to remember him for his signature sigh on the small screen, John's real life quietly entered its final chapter. One day, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, a devastating illness that struck swiftly and without warning. There were no press conferences, no complaints. John faced the illness in silence, much like he had endured so many supporting roles throughout his career. John Sylvester White passed away on September 11, 1988, just weeks before his 69th birthday. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $1 million, enough to reflect a life dedicated to serious, unpretentious work in the performing arts. Charles Fleischer as Carvelli. Charles Fleischer was born on August 27, 1950, in Washington, D.C. At age 26, he made his debut in Welcome Back, KOTTER as Carvelli, a sly, arrogant antagonist who constantly challenged the sweat hogs with his biting, sarcastic comebacks. Though not a main character, Fleischer's portrayal of Carvelli, with his mischievous eyes and deliberately emphasized speech, left a strong impression on audiences. Behind the laughs and screen charisma, Charles Fleischer's real life was full of contradiction and tension. After early success with roles in Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and Laverne and Shirley, he dove into stand-up comedy and gravitated toward scientific and mathematical concepts to create a distinctive performance style. However, that uniqueness sometimes alienated audiences, and his comedy career fluctuated. He once admitted that his passion for theoretical physics, combined with an obsessive attention to detail, caused him to miss major opportunities simply because he refused to follow conventional paths. In his personal life, Fleischer married Cheryl Strassman in 1977, and they had 2 daughters together. Yet the nearly 3-decade-long marriage ended in 2006. Close friends recalled that after the divorce, he immersed himself in research and eccentric inventions as a way to escape his emotions, and for years, he rarely appeared in public without charts or strange contraptions in hand. It was during this period that he voiced Roger Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, 1988, a major artistic breakthrough and the role most associated with his name to this day. But few people knew that while recording Roger's hyperactive, chaotic voice, Charles was living in an apartment nearly devoid of furniture, filled instead with books and homemade models. As of 2025, at the age of 74, he remains healthy and active, writing, performing, and managing his patents, including one for a brainwave-based voice decoding device. With an estimated net worth of around $8 million, Charles Fleischer is not just an eccentric actor, but an admired, unconventional genius, one who has never lost the quirky and sincere spirit of the Carvelli we all remember. Ellen Travolta as Mrs. Horshack O'Hara. Ellen Travolta was born on October 6, 1939. She was 38 years old when she took on the role of Mrs. Horshack O'Hara in Welcome Back, Kotter, the quirky, humorous, and deeply affectionate mother of student Arnold Horshack. Though the role was small, her performance left a lasting impression on viewers thanks to its warmth and her honest portrayal of maternal love. Yet behind her gentle smile was a life filled with its own struggles. Ellen was the eldest of 6 siblings, with her younger brother John Travolta later rising to become one of America's top movie stars. While John basked in fame, Ellen chose a quieter path, pursuing the arts with patience and a spirit of sacrifice. She worked as a singer, a high school theater director, and eventually became a familiar television presence, often cast as the sweet, nurturing mother figure, a role that mirrored her real-life identity both on and off-screen. Her first marriage to James Fridley, the father of her 2 children, ended in 1977, right as she was starting to gain traction in television. Though her family life was shaken, Ellen pressed on with her career, notably taking on the roles of Louisa Arcola in Happy Days and later Gloria Cerullo in General Hospital. These parts offered her a quiet escape from reality, a place where she could be both a single mother and a woman still searching for complete happiness. It wasn't until 1983 that she found peace with her second husband, actor Jack Bannon. They had a simple wedding and remained devoted to one another for more than 3 decades until his passing in 2017. The couple moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where Ellen became the heart and soul of the local summer theater. No longer a television star, she became beloved in her community for her humility and dedication. There, she performed Hello, Dolly, twice, once in 2000 and again in 2012, proving that her love for the arts had never left her. Ellen rarely appeared in the media. She chose a quiet, peaceful, and resilient life, much like the characters she played. By 2025, at the age of 85, Ellen Travolta is fully retired. Her net worth is estimated at around $2 million. A modest figure compared to many of her peers, but her true legacy lies in the spiritual richness and respect she earned from audiences over the years. From the laughs inside KOTTER's classroom to the quiet heartbreaks outside the spotlight, the lives of the Welcome Back KOTTER cast reveal a reality far more poignant than their on-screen personas. Perhaps the glow of fame always comes with too heavy a price. Who do you think endured the greatest pain? Share your thoughts and stay tuned as we uncover more hidden stories from behind the screen.